employees, please stop and lend me your full attention. There are currently 80 of you in the building. In 8 hours, most of you will be dead. Your first task is simply this. Murder any 2 of your fellow employees within the face repercussions.
Not a clue.
He wanted us to kill each other! We're all gonna die.
They lose, man. Corporate fucking America.
Oh, the tracers. They implant them in the back of our heads.
For insurance.
Mike.
Set down the knife immediately. 4, 2.
The film begins in Bogotá, Colombia. Streets are crowded with traffic, vendors, and pedestrians. Mike Milch drives to work at Belko Industries, stopping briefly when a man sells him a small handmade figure from corncob husks. At the Belko Industries compound, armed guards check vehicles at the gate. They carefully inspect each car, even asking senior executive Barry Norris for his identification. While foreign employees are allowed inside, the Colombian locals are unexpectedly sent back home. Inside the office, we are introduced to new employee Danny Wilkins. On her first day, she learns about the mandatory trackers implanted at the back of every worker's head. Officially, they are said to protect employees from kidnappings in Colombia. Other staff go about their routines. Leandra Flores tries to focus on her work while enduring unwanted attention from Wendell Dukes, a persistent coworker. She is in a relationship with Mike, though still recovering from a recent divorce. Danny meets Roberto Jerez and Leota Hynek, who welcome her kindly. The morning appears ordinary, but security changes and strange restrictions suggest something unusual is underway. The employees carry on, unaware of what is about to happen. As the workers settle into their day, a distorted male voice suddenly echoes over the building's intercom. It instructs everyone to stop what they are doing. The voice calmly states that there are 80 people inside the building, and before the day ends, most of them will be dead. The first order is simple but horrifying. Within the next 30 minutes, 2 employees must be killed. If the order is not followed, many more will die. Confusion and disbelief spread quickly. Some assume it is a cruel prank, while others begin to panic. Employees attempt to call out, but all phone lines are dead. Cell phones have no signal. Then, reinforced metal shutters slam down over every door and window, sealing the building completely. Maintenance workers Bud Melks and Lonnie Crane bring out a blowtorch, try to cut through the metal, but the material is far too strong. Meanwhile, a group of employees, including Danny, Roberto, Keith, and Leota, head to the roof. They attempt to wave down the armed guard stationed outside, but the guards ignore them, offering no response. Marty, a cafeteria worker, insists this must be a psychological test and tells everyone not to worry. But in the very next moment, a woman standing nearby collapses. The back of her head has exploded. Down in the lobby, 3 more employees die the same way. Panic breaks out as people duck for cover, believing they're being shot at. Soon, it becomes clear that the explosions are coming from inside their skulls. The voice returns to confirm the threat is real. The implants in their heads are not trackers for safety. They are small explosives. After the shock of the sudden deaths, Barry and Mike examine the bodies. They confirm the wounds came from inside the skull, proving the trackers are actually explosives. Realizing the danger, Mike rushes to the bathroom with a box cutter, attempting to cut the device out of his own head. The voice immediately intervenes, counting down and warning him to stop. If he continues, his implant will be detonated. At the last second, Mike drops the blade. The message is clear. Any attempt to tamper with the devices will result in instant death. In the basement, Bud and Lonnie continue working on the air conditioning, which shut down during the lockdown. Lonnie grows increasingly unstable. When Bud tries to calm him, Lonnie suddenly strikes his co-worker with a wrench, killing him instantly. Danny, who had been hiding nearby, witnesses the murder. Lonnie then grabs her, trying to explain it was an accident. In the struggle, she pushes him back against a metal beam, impaling his head and killing him as well. Upstairs, the voice makes another announcement. Since the first task was ignored, a new order is given. Within 2 hours, 30 people must be killed. If not, 60 will die instead. The employees gather to argue their options. Mike insists no one should be killed, while Barry argues that sacrifices may be necessary if it means survival. The group begins to split between those willing to kill and those determined to find another way out. With the deadline approaching, the office is divided and the real conflict begins. The workers scramble for solutions. Mike urges them to resist the voice, convinced there must be another way. Leandra supports him, but Barry, Wendell, and a small group begin forming their own plan. They believe the only way to survive is to take action, to choose who dies before the countdown ends. Barry approaches Evan, the head of security, asking for the keys to the company armory. Inside are firearms normally locked away for emergencies. Evan refuses, unwilling to hand over weapons that could be turned against their co-workers. While Barry's group searches for options, Mike, Leandra, Evan, and others decide to make banners to signal for help. They climb to the roof and attempt to hang a sign pleading for rescue. Armed guards on the ground notice and immediately open fire. Keith is struck in the hand. The voice warns them to stop or risk detonation of their implants. Forced back inside, the groups cross paths. Tensions explode when Barry knocks Mike unconscious with a fire extinguisher. Wendell demands the armory keys from Evan. Instead of surrendering, Evan throws the keys down the stairwell. Enraged, Wendell stabs him. Evan bleeds out, dying before anyone can intervene. Now armed with the keys, Barry's group opens the armory and distributes pistols among themselves. They quickly round up employees, forcing them into the lobby. Some are spared temporarily, those with children or those over 60, but the selections are inconsistent and arbitrary. As the deadline draws near, Barry prepares to carry out mass executions. In the lobby, dozens of terrified employees are herded together under armed watch. Barry orders his group to separate people into categories. Those with children under 18 are placed aside, as are the elderly. But there are too few to meet the quota. Time is running out, and Barry makes the decision to choose victims at random. Mike regains consciousness and finds himself among those selected. One man resists, refusing to stand against the wall. Wendell immediately executes him with a gunshot, proving that resistance is futile. As panic builds, Barry takes control. To drown out the screams, he orders music to be played. Then one by one, he begins shooting employees in the back of the head. Each shot adds to the growing count. His team watches, some in horror, others with grim acceptance. Terry, one of Barry's allies, grows visibly shaken. When Mike tries to reach him, Terry nearly pulls the trigger on him, but at that moment, the building goes dark. Danny has found a breaker in the basement and cuts the power. In the confusion, workers scatter, running for cover. Barry's armed men open fire blindly into the fleeing crowd. Vince and several survivors overpower Bradley, one of Barry's gunmen, and beat him to death. On another floor, Peggy stabs Antonio with his own knife after Mike attacks him. Amid the chaos, the voice returns. Only 29 people have been killed, one short of the required 30. With the deadline expired, the punishment is carried out. 31 more employees' heads explode, including many who thought they had escaped. The survivors are left in shock, with barely more than a dozen people remaining alive. After the mass explosions, silence falls over the building. Bodies lie scattered across offices and hallways. The survivors regroup, realizing only a fraction of the original 80 remain alive. The voice announces the next stage of the experiment. In 1 hour, only the person with the highest number of kills will be allowed to live. Everyone else will die. Immediately, Wendell and Barry set out to increase their kill counts. Wendell slaughters 2 people hiding in a bathroom. Barry strangles a woman who begs for her life, telling her he won't waste a bullet. Meanwhile, Danny and Roberto hide inside an elevator shaft. As Barry enters the elevator, they cling to the top. When the elevator rises, Roberto is crushed between the ceiling and the lift, killing him instantly. Danny narrowly escapes by leaping onto a nearby ledge. On another floor, Leandra discovers Marty and his friend Chet collecting unexploded implants from the dead. Their plan is to use the devices as bombs to blow through the steel walls. Before they can act, Wendell finds them. He fires, killing Chet instantly. Marty is mortally wounded. Leandra fights back, cornered but determined. She seizes a fire axe and brutally kills Wendell, ending his rampage. Mike and Leandra reunite in the lobby. Leandra shows him the handful of explosives Marty managed to recover before his death. Mike takes them, knowing they may be their only chance for survival. At the same time, Barry forces his way out of the elevator he was trapped in. Their paths are set to collide. In the basement, One man assembles more Molotov cocktails from fuel and bottles. He hurls one at a woman, engulfing her in flames, then turns his fire toward Mike and Leandra. Barry intervenes, shooting the man dead, but in the exchange, Leandra is struck by a bullet. Danny steps into the ground floor elevator. As the doors open, she comes face to face with Barry. Without hesitation, he shoots her in the head. Mike and Leandra retreat into hiding. She is gravely wounded and tells him she loves him before dying in his arms. Left alone, Mike prepares himself for the inevitable confrontation with Barry. Fueled by rage and desperation, Mike launches a surprise attack. The two men engage in a brutal fight, exchanging blows across the office. Barry, trained and stronger, nearly overpowers him. But Mike grabs a heavy tape dispenser and bludgeons Barry repeatedly, finally killing him. Mike stands as the last survivor of Belko Industries. When Barry falls dead, the office goes silent. A moment later, the metal shutters covering the doors and windows retract. The experiment is over. Mike, bloodied and shaken, is the sole survivor among 80 employees. Armed guards enter and escort him from the building. They lead him across the compound to the adjacent hangar. Inside, Mike meets the man behind the voice, a scarred figure who calmly explains the truth. Belko Industries was never a normal company. The entire operation was an experiment conducted by an international organization of social scientists. Their goal is to observe human behavior when people are forced into extreme conditions. Every action, every death has been data for their study. The man sits across from Mike and asks how he feels after surviving. But Mike has already acted. Before being brought to the hangar, he planted the collected explosives on the guards and officials who were close to him. Suddenly, he rushes to the control panel and detonates the devices. The guards collapse instantly. Mike seizes a rifle and opens fire, killing the remaining men, including the one behind the intercom. When the gunfire ends, he is the only one left alive. Mike exits the hangar and walks outside. The camera pulls back, revealing rows of monitors displaying other Belko facilities around the world. Dozens of similar experiments are underway, each with its own survivors and victims. A voice declares the beginning of Phase 2. The Belko experiment ends here, but the larger test has only just begun.